Hey, one of the fastest way to go viral is not posting more, chasing trends, or doing crazy things on social media. Unfortunately, I learned the basics of this method the hard way. Ooh, I gotta get my here. Unfortunately, I learned the basics of this method the hard way when I was giving a talk at a conference and was trolled live on stage. That is no joke. All right. Well, hey, so I'm here to share a very interesting thing that happened to me back on my back in my past, and I'm going to share that with you today. But first, I'm going to tell you about kind of another thing that got me into this understanding about exactly how to manage content for somebody. And it came from one of my bosses. His name was Chris Steinberg. He was the president of the Manufactured Housing Institute where I first worked when I was young. He taught me that you could bring any problem to him that you wanted, but along with the problem, he insisted that we bring a practical solution. So that was exactly where we were with that, and I, have to say that it was not simple, sometimes to be, um, him or working with him because he would make you all these ideas, and so one of the things that I learned from that is that people often are going to listen to you better if you deal with the objections first. So that was the big one for me, is that coming with those ideas really happened. It stuck with me for that reason. And that's the heart of this formula that I've come up with called the fix formula. And this formula is a great way to put out your content so that people will listen to you. So before I get into that horrifying troll story, which it is horrifying, and I promise you I will tell it before the end, I want to give you a little bit less emotional example to demonstrate how the fix formula works. So the fix formula is this. It is, and I'll put it up here so you can see it. The fix formula is flag, flaw, fix. So the first thing that you need to do with the fix formula is that you flag some sort of universal objection or resistance that people are going to have. So usually if you are a consultant like I am, for example, you will have people that will have all kinds of objections to your proposals or to whatever you're trying to help them or sell them. They'll have a bunch of objections. And so you need to like flag what you think those are going to be at the outset. You're going to flag those objections and then explain them. You're going to explain the flaw in their thinking, and then you're going to fix that with your solution. So you don't start with your solution whenever you're trying to go viral, whenever you're trying to do something. Nobody ever does. I mean, the people that definitely go out there and do a lot of really fun things like they are, dancing and all of that. That does get people's attention. But if you're trying to get somebody to convert to what you want, and the solutions that you offer, you're going to need to flag that first in a universal objection. So, for example, if you say, I don't have time to post on social media, that's a pretty common objection I hear all the time. Like, I don't have time to post. It's an objection. And I'll say something like this. I'll say, this is when I'm doing done with you programs where I'm helping people to post more often. I'll say, what if I could show you a way to interact on social media for 15 minutes a day while you lounge on your couch, eat your snacks, and that'll basically give you 80% of the visibility you need. And that's just in commenting and connecting with people, like say on LinkedIn. That is one of the most powerful ways actually to grow on LinkedIn, is that 15-minute a day capsule where you don't even have to be doing anything, just sitting around, going through your feed, looking for people and connecting with them in a really valuable way. And then all you have to do is post once or twice a week and you are absolutely okay. You're going to be able to get those views that you need. Maybe you'll never become like a huge star if you're not like posting every day, but the bottom line is that. And then you can offer them your whatever it is you can do to fix that. So you say, well, yeah, 15 minutes a day, I get it. Okay, yeah, makes sense. What do I do? Well, that's why I put together the 2x2 magic connect, the connect method that I have. So I have a 2x2 magic connect. By the way, I do have that. So if you want to grab that, you can. I actually have, I'll put it on here for you. Yeah. So this is the 2x2 magic connect. It tells you how to do it. So, that's the way you run through it. You start with, I don't want to, so "Hey, are you never gonna post?" Like, "Oh, I'm not gonna post." So that's why it's really funny when people are doing these sort of funny gags at the beginning where they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm never gonna post," "I don't love posting," or whatever, and it catches your attention because you kind of believe in that too. You feel that way too. So, if you can actually speak out what people are thinking in their head, they'll stop and they'll be like, What are you saying? Because it sounds like something that I feel or I would say." So that's sort of the whole method, but that being said, I'm going to go ahead and teach you sort of how I got there. So the flag, flaw, and fix method. How I got there was I was hired actually to go and do a keynote speech for the Cable Association of America, which is a long time ago when cable was big and we all were bigger, right? And so I went and I was wanting to teach people how to use social media and specifically Twitter. At the time, it was early Twitter. I think this might have been 2008, something like that. So it was a while ago. And so it was early Twitter, and a lot of these corporate organizations had no interest whatsoever in putting themselves out there on a platform like that. They were worried about the risks. They were worried about the possibility of trolls. They were worried about people complaining a lot. They were really worried about all of that. I know it's hard to believe now that a company might not want to get on social media. Maybe it isn't hard to believe. Sometimes it's pretty hard, right? So the bottom line is that I went in there to teach them this. And one of the things that I wanted to do was to show them in real time how powerful Twitter was. And back then, it was pretty powerful. You could get on Twitter and get a lot of interaction pretty quickly, kind of smaller place, very different now. Sometimes you'll go on and it's very different at this point in time. But I brought up my Twitter account and I started to bring in some of my audience, and I told them what I was doing, and I told them I was standing in front of a big stage and I was on stage, and I actually put a nice little photo up that shows that I was on stage, and they started to interact with my audience. My audience was like laughing and I was answering questions and we were going back and forth. And in the midst of all of this, there was what I call a determined detractor. This is a guy that really didn't love the public relations industry. And he came onto my feed and started to attack me directly. Like, you shouldn't listen to Cami. Like, why would you listen to her? She la 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 la. Um, it was horrifying. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, my audience gasped. I heard people like, "Oh," and I knew they'd seen it. So, of course, I did not pretend it wasn't happening. I did not get embarrassed, and well, I was embarrassed, but I didn't get super embarrassed. And I kept my wits about me, I guess is what I wanted to say. And I immediately pointed it out to them. I said, "Listen, here's the thing. I'm really glad this is happening right now because I want you to see this. I'm going to show you how we're going to work through this." And so we started to work as an audience together, the audience with me back and forth on this. And I was explaining to them that they would 100% be trolled on Twitter or any social media. Like, the chances that you're going to get trolled as a company over the time that you're on a social media platform is literally 100%. It's 100%. So you would just come up with strategies to deal with that. And so that was really like the first part is the flag, right? I'm going to pull this up. So by flagging it, we said, "Hey, you're 100% going to have this happen. I know your objection is you don't want to get on because you're afraid this is going to happen. This is going to happen." And so we started to talk about what that looked like and how that would work through. And as we were talking through this, my community started to deal with the troll. They started to reply to him and tell him to get lost and tell him that he didn't know what he was talking about. And this was a very well-known troll in the community that I was in. And because I'd built a community around my brand, they protected me in that moment. So while I was talking to the audience, they were fighting the fight online, right? So in that flag side of things, that's what it is. You're flagging the problem. Then the flaw is that I'm not going to get onto a social media platform because we might get trolled, right? That would be the flaw in the thinking. Like, we shouldn't do it because it's too risky, right? And so this is obviously the nightmare they were concerned about with social media, and the one that I was trying to get them over with by showing them how it worked. And honestly, it was my nightmare too. Honestly, it was very bad. But I just said, we decide as we dissected this situation and I talked to them about how they should build a community around the brand and all of that in real time as the troll was trolling me, like actively, like saying really horrible things about me online. Then we worked together as the community and the audience to work through what that meant. So I got a lot of questions. Like people were asking me, like, so what do you do when something like this happens? I said, well, what we do is first of all, we build a very strong community. Second of all, don't feed the trolls. That was kind of a thing back then. But I also knew who this was. So I knew you probably shouldn't feed him. And I was like, you don't always know who your trolls are going to be. So you've got to be careful through that. So you've got to have a guidelines document together. By the way, um, as I went through that, I started to talk about how the guidelines I had set up for other clients that we had, and we talked about the guidelines, which was part of my presentation anyway, because that was part of what I taught them was this guardrail concept. Is that you can hurdle down the highway, but you have to wear a seatbelt and have guardrails. You do have to put those into place. And then the fix was I told them that um, that's the fix, the guardrails, like putting those into place. What are you going to say? What is already like pre-approved by your legal team? What is already pre-done? So we do these things called playbooks. Like, so for our clients, we create a playbook for our clients of what we're going to do in these types of situations, like step by step. And sometimes we have some language that's pre-approved in there too, depending on the client and what they need. Some of our clients are healthcare. So there's a lot of HIPAA rules and things like that. So we will have these playbooks in place beforehand so that whenever we go into these situations, we're not like on a weekend at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday going, what can I do or say to this troll or to the situation that has come out of control? So we talked about that in the room. There's about, I think, 100 people in the room. It was a little bit intimidating, but we went through it. And in the end of it, by the way, I gained a client from that. So just keeping my head about it, showing them in real time what it was like to deal with the troll in real time, what you need in order to be ready for a troll. It was, I mean, honestly, I'm glad it happened. I know that sounds terrible, but I'm glad it happened because I don't think that they would have believed that it was possible without seeing it with their own eyes. So anyway, I should have sent him like a little gift afterwards and said, thank you so much. So much. I got a really good client out of it that I worked with for some time and ended up having a lot of things came out of having that client that were really, really important for my career. So I would say there's a lot of fear around this, but the truth is if you can come out and be honest and authentic, and what does that even mean? Being honest and authentic, that means being a little vulnerable, right? As a brand, like a big brand or a small brand, a personal brand. I mean, my personal brand was being attacked that day. And I was talking to big, huge brands that you know the names of. And they were like, I don't want to put ourselves in that situation. But by the end of it, they all wanted to put in a playbook into place. And one of them at least hired me to help them do that. So I'm really, really bully on this idea that you start with the objections. So put the dirty laundry out front in the sense of like the things that people are afraid of. Then, like I said, that's the flag what they're going to say, flag what you think is going to be the biggest objection, then point out the flaws in what they are, that way of thinking, and then show what your product or service can do to solve the problem. I think we often talk about problems like problem statements and stuff like that. And people get it in mind that we should start with, our solutions first. Like, hey, come and like work with me and I'll make sure, blah, 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 this feature, that feature, we're going to give you 15 blog posts a day and, whatever. It's very difficult for you to sell that to people. Usually what'll happen with that is they'll come back to you and say, well, if you do like, instead of doing like 3 posts a week on our social media, can you do like 4 or can you do 2 and then it'll be less money or whatever. So you need to sell systems to people, because when you sell system, then people understand that what you're doing is you're putting like a protection around them for what they want to get accomplished. So that playbook, the ability to deal with sort of difficult situations in real time. And then also at the end of the day, that's really what makes you go viral. So a lot of these posts that you see out there that go really viral have to do with people admitting that they had a hard time with something and talking about how they overcame it with the solution that they now sell. So that's what I'm saying here too. Like one of the things that I found that has really, really helped me is having like a plan in place for when things go wrong. So having that crisis communication background that I have, which I've talked about in other videos today, I'm not going into that kind of depth. Maybe I'll do that soon. But crisis communication and all of the different situations I've been in the crisis front, which has been unfortunately too many, have taught me to keep my cool in these moments and then to use these moments as teaching moments. And that's actually what makes great content too. Like if you don't want to be like a dancing, entertaining type of person and you want to be an educational person, then really what you're selling is the transformation, not the service, right? The transformation is that you can now, be visible to your audience and still do it within a time frame that works for you. You do not have to like post 15 times a week in order to be like Gary Vee, in order to be successful in your business and using social media as that lever. You do not even have to have a million views on your social media posts. You have to have one or two or three or however many you need in order to hire you to do the thing that you do the best. So let's just say like 15 people watched your video, but one of them hired you. That video was viral to you. Do you know what I'm saying? So think about that too, is that I think sometimes we care so much about these numbers. It's like an ego trip. I like getting numbers too. And, sometimes I don't get them and that's fine. Um, because these pieces of content are what I use in order to reach out to clients so that they can understand what we do, so that they can understand what I can do for them. And that's what you need to do too. What is it? So let's go through it one more time. I'll put it big screen so you can see it. So it's flag. So you're going to flag the thing that you think people are going to object to, like the things that people usually say to you, like, oh, I would, but money. If it's money, then you need to kind of think through that. Usually it's not so much money, it's more value, but we can talk about that later. So think about the objections people usually give you when you try to offer them your service or whatever, or they're not ready in some way. So what is it that would make them ready to work with you? You can talk about those things in your content. The second thing is talk about the flaw in the way that they're thinking about these things. And maybe, do it in a twisty way, kind of like what I told you here today. Like, oh my gosh, the troll like attacked me, and I was able to use that as I could say, see, it's not the end of the world if a troll comes and attacks you. And then the last one is that you come up with your method to fix it. And methods are better than just a list of things. Methods are better. So this is my, I guess, 3F method. The 3F method: flag, flaw, and fix. And then that's going to absolutely every time give you better content. So even if it doesn't go completely viral, I promise you sometimes it will. And a lot of times if you're dealing with objections, there's a little bit of a hot take, right? And if you do a hot take, people love to jump in and put their 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 cents on top of that too. So that actually does drive engagement and often virility. I know a lot of people that have had that happen to them whenever they just talk about something from their heart that they see in their industry that they want changed, and they talk about that. So there's a lot of ways to go about this, but if flagging these objections, flagging these, errors and thinking that you see out there, these are a great way to have very sticky content that people want to see. So that being said, again, if you are a person that says, I do not have time for social media, so the one I was talking about at the beginning, I would love for you to pick up my 2x2 Magic Connect, which is free. And you can get on my email, and in my email, I send out little tips like this a lot, and I put out these videos. And so I would love for you to be on the list so that you know when these things are coming up, and also get a little free gift from me on teaching you how to do 15 minutes a day social media from your couch. I think that'd be fun. And then, so I'm very excited about that. And I hope that you will grab a hold of that and just use these things for your own edification, because I do feel like as we go forward, we need to work together with each other. My name is Cami Hoyza. I am the founder of Zoetica Media and the co-founder of Social Media Breakfast of Houston. And so I love to talk about how to use social media and new media in all kinds of its forms, including AI. We do a lot of really cool things about AI workflows, so that you can have a better chance being visible online. So we're here to teach you to build your brand. So that is all, my friends. I hope you have a great day. I'll put this up for you as I go out so you can write it down if you need to. But yes, grab the flag, flaw, fix method in your head, and make sure that you pick up the Magic 2x2 as well. I hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you soon.